Wearing 80 with space and provoking rough men. Su Xiaoyun is a bit flustered. Liu Dongsheng. Look at what I made called flowers. How does it taste? The flowers are fragrant and I accidentally ate them all. Liu Dongsheng. Brother has 2 movie tickets. The movie is so beautiful that I can't help but hold my hands. Marrying Liu Dongsheng, the whole village says she's crazy. Finally, watching helplessly, she became the darling of the group. What does it feel like to marry into a rough man's family? This is not a rough man, clearly a strange family. Keywords of the novel. Crossing the 80s to marry a rough man without a pop-up window, crossing the 80s to marry a rough man. Download the complete text, and read the latest chapters on crossing the 80s to marry a rough man. Chapter 1. Crossing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Crossing Su Xiaoyun, you heartless little white-eyed wolf. You have been eating and drinking for free in the Su family for more than 10 years, and in the end, you still want to snatch Xiaoyun's object. I tell you, if you have the ability, just don't eat and starve to death. If anyone dares to sneak in and give her food and drink, get out of the Su family for me. Awakened by a few vulgar curses from rural women, Su Xiaoyun opened his eyes. The purpose is to use newspaper paste to create a adobe wall on the wall, and 2 nails are also tied to the wall. A rope is pulled between the 2 nails, and 2 patched clothes are hung on the rope. Su Xiaoyun felt an empty and uncomfortable feeling in her stomach, as well as a feeling of hunger and vomiting. Then there was another sound. Mom, don't be angry. Xiaoyun probably didn't mean to do it. She just listened to those people outside talking nonsense and thought it was really her who had arranged a doll marriage with Chen Shuabin when she was a child. So she ran out and acted around. It's not worth getting angry about this. Don't get angry and ruin your body. Can I not be angry? She has eaten a lot of food at home for over a decade. If it weren't for my kindness, I should have thrown her into a mountain ditch and let the wolves eat her when I killed the Wangzong. She is the naturally poisonous scorpion that killed our Su family. Su Xiaoyun was surprised by the memories in her mind as she wondered what was going on. She actually dressed up as a vicious supporting actress from a vintage novel she just read last night. The malicious female supporting character had the same name and surname as her, and because of this, Su Xiaoyun was a bit disgusted, only taking a few glances before stopping. In the book, Su Xiaoyun's father, Su Wangzong, died early. It was clearly to save his brother Su Wangzong that he died. After Su Wangzong returned home, he dared not admit it and only said that he accidentally stepped on it and fell to death. Mrs. Su suffered the loss of her second son and blamed Su Xiaoyun, who was only 3 years old at the time, for her mistake. She claimed that she had forced her father to be defeated, and Su Xiaoyun's mother quickly abandoned her and remarried. Out of guilt, Su Wangzu and his wife convinced Su Laotai to raise Su Xiaoyun. At the age of 5, Su Xiaoyun started working before he even had a stove, but still couldn't escape being beaten and scolded. Over time, Su Wangzu's sense of guilt grew thinner and thinner in his heart. Instead, seeing Su Xiaoyun reminded him of what had happened before, reminding him like a thorn in his flesh that he had caused his younger brother's death, so he naturally didn't care about her. No one knows how Su Xiaoyun, who has no father or mother, grew up so trembling. She secretly heard from Su Xiaoyun's mother that she had been engaged to Chen Shuabin since childhood, so that was the only way for her to escape from this family. Since the resumption of the college entrance examination in 1977, a large number of educated youth have returned to the city, production teams have been cancelled, and Honghe village, like other villages, has also undergone land reform. As long as they are good at farming, their lives are much better than before, and cultural figures have become popular. Chen Shuabin is a cultured person. After failing all 3 exams after graduating from high school, Chen Shuabin became a Chinese teacher at the former commune primary school and now the Honghe village primary school, making him a popular candidate for future son-in-law among many people. Unfortunately, Chen Xiaobin's father and Su Xiaoyun's father used to have a good relationship, so they just drank and joked to get married. Who would have thought that Su Wangzong would disappear so soon? After hearing about this, Su Xiaoyun wanted to go home and ask Mrs. Su if it was true. Before she could ask, she heard Mrs. Su discussing with Li Wan, her aunt, about having Su Xiaoyan and Chen Xiaobin meet in 2 days. Chen Xiaobin is elegant and has a good job compared to a farmer. Su Xiaoyun secretly likes him. Upon learning that Su Xiaoyan had taken away her marriage, the grievances she had suffered over the years suddenly erupted, causing chaos and even going on a hunger strike. Immediately after, Su Xiaoyun walked over. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Portable Space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Portable Space, What a Fool. It's not just me who feels uncomfortable when I'm hungry. If I starve to death, the Su family won't feel uncomfortable. Maybe they'll even clap and cheer, missing someone who eats plain rice. Su Xiaoyun rubbed his stomach and a Snickers stand suddenly appeared in his hand. Fortunately, her space also came in, and even the things inside were still there. Su Xiaoyun accidentally broke the jade bracelet left by her mother when she was in college, but unexpectedly opened her personal space. There is only one room and an inexhaustible spring in the space. The house is exactly the same as Su Xiaoyun's brick house in the countryside. You can put things in it. What they look like when they put them in, what they look like when they come out. Even fresh food will not go bad. After her multiple tests, although the spring water cannot cure all diseases, it is very effective for plants. Watering with this spring water, with just a little added, can make the crops grow better without any pests or diseases. In modern society, eating emphasizes pure natural and green food. With this spring water, Su Xiaoyun rented several acres of farmland in the suburbs after graduation and opened a small shop in the city, specializing in selling vegetables. He even brought testing certificates, and the prices were also expensive. Some people don't believe it. After buying it and personally testing and tasting it, they found that there are indeed no pesticide residues, and the taste is very good, unlike greenhouse vegetables that do not have a vegetable flavor. Relying on this small shop, Su Xiaoyun bought a house for 2 years and became a little wealthy woman. Fortunately, she has a habit of hoarding things, otherwise having space without food would be useless. Chewing on the Snickers, Su Xiaoyun sighed. There is nothing more heartbreaking and tearful than a little rich woman becoming poor overnight. As for Chen Xiaobin, who loves to marry who gets married, she doesn't like that kind of man. In the book, neither she nor Su Xiaoyan is the protagonist, and in the end, they have to give way to true love. After finishing the Snickers, my mouth was a bit too sweet. I threw the packaging bag into the trash can in the space and took out a bottle of mineral water to rinse my mouth. In the yard, Mrs. Su is still cursing, and she has seen the technique of cursing. With a bang, the wooden door opened and the curses paused for a moment. Aren't you a brat going on a hunger strike? Why did you come out again? I don't know how to say hello, but after killing you, your father wants to scare me to death, right? Thanks to Lady Su, Su Xiaoyun's reputation as a nemesis has been widely circulated, and he hasn't even talked about a partner in his 20s. Su Xiaoyan is 1 year younger than her, with a big face and a thick neck. In Mrs. Su's mouth, her face is full of blessings. Many people in the countryside really like this kind of appearance, but unfortunately Su Xiaoyan took a liking to Chen Xiaobin. In addition, Chen Xiaobin's job is indeed good, and I heard that he is preparing to continue taking the exam. Maybe when he will be admitted to a college or university, then he will have a college student partner. The future is promising. Mrs. Su thought about it and decided that the whole family would change their tune. She said that Su Wangzong was entrusted by Su Wangzong to be a child's relative for Su Xiaoyan. Anyway, it was decided by drinking in the house at the beginning. Su Wangzong didn't mention it everywhere, and besides the Su and Chen families, others were not very clear about it. The two children are both so old, and the Chen family has not mentioned this matter, so it must be that they have no interest in Su Xiaoyun at all. If they had changed to Su Xiaoyan, they wouldn't have said anything nonsense either. When the two children look at each other, it's okay, it's not okay. However, both Mrs. Su and Li Wan have great confidence in Su Xiaoyan. Their child is so lucky, why not like her? End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Not going on a blind date. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Not going on a blind date. For Mrs. Su's scolding, Su Xiaoyun didn't take it to heart. Let's curse and curse. Anyway, she won't be able to scold for at most 2 more days. Grandma, if it scares you to death, how can you still speak? That would be a fake corpse. Besides, you have such a healthy body and are so angry that even your neighbors can hear you cursing. You must live a long life. The disaster has been passed down for thousands of years. Mrs. Su was stunned for a moment, unsure if she should scold her. I've figured it out now. Chen Xiaobin is so excellent that I don't deserve him at all. It's better for someone like Xiaoyan who is good-looking and hardworking. If Xiaoyan likes it, let her go on a blind date. What, this dead girl figured it out so quickly. Mrs. Su and Li Wan don't believe much. Su Xiaoyan, who was eavesdropping in the room, even dug a piece of soil from the wall. Praising her for being good-looking and hardworking. Why do you always feel like this is ironic? So can we eat now? Although she ate Snickers, she was still hungry, and she didn't stock up on much food in the space. Basically, it was just snacks, so she ate a little less. You know how to eat just by eating, how could you grow into such a useless thing? Su Xiaoyun covered her stomach and sat down on the bench. Yes, I'm not promising. Those who are promising should not eat, she said. What's wrong with this dead girl? She can handle 2 sentences with just 1 sentence today. It is impossible to have a meal, even though it is time for the meal. Because Jinbao and Yinbao are still playing outside and haven't come back. These 2 are Mrs. Su's 2 precious lumps, and also Su Xiaoyan's younger brother. The old lady stood up and went outside to look for her grandson. Are you really not going to compete with me for Chen Xiaobin? Su Xiaoyan didn't believe it either. Don't you believe it? Otherwise, on the day of the blind date, I might as well be with you. Su Xiaoyan hurriedly said, Don't, who wants you to come with? Seeing her so scared, Su Xiaoyun laughed. Although the villagers all say that her big faceplate is lucky, Su Xiaoyan still thinks that Su Xiaoyun's oval face is more beautiful. Liu Ye's eyebrows were thin and curved, unlike her father's. Her 2 eyebrows grew together at the center of the eyebrows, and she often had to be trimmed with a blade. The sweat on her arms and legs was also thick and black. If 2 people stand together, even if they have a reputation for restraining others, what if Chen Xiaobin still chooses Su Xiaoyun? However, this is still not very safe. On that day, let my grandmother find a way to spend her expenses. Chen family. When Chen Xiaobin returned home from Honghe Village Primary School after work, Chen's mother began to place food on the table. Xiaobin, Mrs. Su came to our house today and wants to find a suitable day for you to go on a blind date with her granddaughter. Are you with Su Xiaoyun? Chen Xiaobin asked. No, it's Su Xiaoyan. It's indeed Xiaoyun who was originally engaged to you. That child is also pretty good, but unfortunately, she has taken control of her father. No one in the Su family is willing to take care of her. What if she marries into our family and also takes control of our family? Chen's mother was worried. Let me tell you, you shouldn't have taken advantage of the alcohol to make a baby kiss. If it weren't for the reputation of restraining relatives, Su Xiaoyun would actually be a good child. Chen's father knocked the tobacco bag and pot on the edge of the Kong, put them away, and prepared to eat. Who knew Su Wangzong was walking so young? Sai, what are you talking about? It's all your foolishness, don't let anyone talk about it. Look at our Xiaobin, who is good-looking and capable. Even if he can't get into college, he's still a teacher. It's too unfair for him to be paired with a rural girl. It would be even more unfair for him if he gets accepted. Chen Xiaoyun didn't speak, and that's actually what he meant in his heart. Su Xiaoyun is quite good-looking, but his status is too low to match him. He actually wants to find a city girl, who must be a worker. They definitely don't look up to him, whether it's high or low. Su's mother said again, if other people refuse directly, it's okay. With this doll around, no matter who was initially chosen, if we don't go, Su's old lady's mouth doesn't know how to shout outside. Xiaoyun, why don't we do this? You can just take a step over and take a look, and then turn around and say that you didn't hit it off. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Village Bully Beats Children. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Village Bully Beats Children. Mrs. Su has been searching for her grandson for a long time but hasn't returned. Su Xiaoyun didn't know how long the original owner had been hungry, and the foundation of the Snickers was not enough. Seeing that others were not in a hurry to eat, he had to go out and look for it himself. She actually wants to take care of him, just open the lid of the pot and eat. But there are still 2 people at home, 2 on 1. There are a lot of people in the enemy camp, so she may not be able to beat them. Not far away, there was a faint scolding from Mrs. Su. Hurry up and let go of my 2 children. Do you hear me? If you hit me again, you'll call someone else. Accompanied by Mrs. Su's scolding were the clapping of her chin and the crying of her child. If you have the ability, shout it out. Even if you shout your throat out, I won't let them go. I see Liu Xiaoxi hitting someone, who dares to come and fight. I'll even fight him. Su Xiaoyun let out a sigh in her heart. Who is this, so arrogant? Papa, Papa, playing with a strong sense of rhythm. My gold and silver treasures, Liu Xiaoxi, why are you such a scoundrel? Such a big person even bullies children. Believe it or not, I'll call your parents. Go ahead, I'm not afraid. See if my parents come and teach me a lesson or help me teach these 2 brats a lesson. Taking advantage of me taking a shower in the river and stealing my shoes and clothes, it's really bold. Grandma Su, why are you howling? Not only can you not howl, but you should also thank me. I am helping you educate them. When I was a child, I stole needles. When I grew up, I stole gold. If I don't slap you hard a few times, I'll have to steal into jail. Speaking, there were a few more clicks and clicks. The person who hit someone is called Liu Dongsheng, because he ranks 4th at home and is also called Liu Xiaoxi. The Liu family doesn't dare to provoke anyone in Honghe village. Liu Xiaoxi's grandfather used to be a militia and had killed the Japanese, which earned him special respect. However, besides that, he was just a generous thug. From his grandfather to his father, and then to Liu Xiaoxi, none of them are easy to deal with. If you say they don't reason, it's not true. But Liu Xiaoxi's father can scare half of the village's children with a single glare, and the other half of the village can be scared to pee. At Liu Xiaoxi's place, I don't know how this child looks. Although he is a caretaker, he is always white and clean, with a slightly delicate appearance. The people in Honghe village thought that the Liu family had finally developed a coward who was easy to bully, but the result was that this coward, which everyone thought was worse than his 2 older brothers and 1 older sister, was still the kind of coward who was weak and sickly. If anyone messes with him, it's just a piece of candy, it's still the kind that stings people. If you can afford it, fight directly, if you can't afford it, adopt a roundabout strategy. Even if it takes the first half of the year, you will still seek revenge. Although the Liu family is not unreasonable, they also take extra care of their children. Liu Xiaoxi is the most precious one. If anyone accuses him, they can at most curse a few words, and if they dare to demand a beating. Liu Xiaoxi's father glared at his 2 ox-eyed eyes. I can't bear to scold my 4th child, I just scolded them all. What else do you want? Not to mention this time Lu Xiaoxi is taking control and calling him his parents. Even if he calls the heavenly king lousy over, he is not afraid. Milk, milk, my buttocks are almost cooked. Fourth brother, I was wrong, I dare not dare again. Su Jinbao is 10 years old and Su Yinbao is 7 years old, much younger than Su Xiaoyun, but children aged 10 or 7 are also quite strong. But he couldn't break free from Lu Xiaoxi's hand. These two little tyrants met the real big tyrant, crying so hard that they were almost hoarse. They accidentally poured a few mouthfuls of river water with a fishy smell into their stomachs. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Picking up the pants of the village bully. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Picking up the pants of the village bully. Watching the two babies getting beaten up, Mrs. Su felt heartbroken and helpless. Su Xiaoyun looked quite novel from a distance. Who is causing Mrs. Su to be so afraid? She can follow and learn well. As she approached, she couldn't help but chuckle. I saw Su Jinbao and Su Yinbao standing in the water wearing clothes. Their clothes were already soaked, but their pants were taken off and they were pouting towards this side. The two originally white buttocks have already been beaten red. With a flick, they bounce back and forth, bouncing back and forth like jelly. The person who hit them was a handsome young man with a shiny white body, unlike Jinbao Yinbao. His exposed face and arms were tanned black, and only the areas covered by his clothes were white. The handsome young man was naked and didn't wear anything. With one hand, he grabbed the wrists of the two children, like pulling out a hanging willow tree, forcing them to bend over and be beaten. They couldn't even get up, while the other hand slapped their buttocks, causing them to cry and cry. Hearing Su Xiaoyun's laughter, Liu Dongsheng looked over. Just now, he said he was not afraid of anyone coming, and immediately sent away the two children. He leaned back and sank into the water with a splash. Gudu, a series of bubbles popped out of the water. Hey! Are you okay? Jinbao and Yinbao quickly ran and crawled up from the water, lifted their pants, and crawled into Mrs. Su's arms. Nice treasure. You bereaved star doesn't care if your younger brother has been beaten up, but instead cares about that villain. A head emerged from the water, with wet hair sticking all over the scalp. Grandma Su, you scold me as a bad person. Believe it or not, I'll tell my parents. If he is a villain, what are his parents who gave birth to him? It's like scolding the entire Lu family. The thought of Lu Laogao, Miao Zuexiang, standing in front of her house with a knife and another carrying a stick to settle accounts with him made Mrs. Su's legs tremble. Without any backbone, he directly denied, You heard me wrong. I didn't scold you as a bad person. She scolded me. Directly point to Su Xiaoyun. You fart, do you think my ears are bad? Don't worry, Grandma Su. When my parents are free, they will definitely come to your house to seek justice for me. I, Lu Xiaoxi, kindly helped you educate your grandson and was scolded as a bad person. I am so wronged. I feel so aggrieved. What, are those two evil spirits really coming? Mrs. Su grabbed the gold and silver treasures and ran away, the thief with small feet flipping fast. Why run so fast? Hurry up and eat. After dinner, the whole family will go to their daughter-in-law's house to hide. Su Xiaoyun looked at the head floating on the water and felt a bit scared. Just now she shouted, thinking that he had accidentally cramped his leg and sank to the bottom. Seeing that he had nothing to do, she turned around and wanted to leave. She didn't pay attention to his feet, but instead stepped on the clothes he had thrown on the shore. That outfit was already wet with gold and silver treasures. Countryside people love to wear dirt-resistant colors such as black, gray, and blue. In addition, it is only 80 years ago, and trendy clothing colors and styles have not yet become popular here. But Liu Dongsheng's clothes were actually a white Dacron shirt, which looked quite new, so Su Xiaoyun's footprints were particularly noticeable. Damn it, seeing his bandit-like behavior just now, he probably wouldn't have played his life with her too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'll take it home, help you clean it up, and then return it to you. We're definitely going to have dinner at home, I'll go back to eat first. Squat down, pick up clothes, and run with one swift movement. I didn't notice that we picked it up together, and there was also a light apricot-colored pants. Hey, my pants. Liu Dongsheng was dumbfounded. He didn't scold her, didn't say what to do, and didn't say what to do. Hammered into the water, helpless to look at the sky, how will he go home now? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Liu's home visit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Liu's home visit. Su Xiaoyun ran home with clothes behind Su Laotai, and as expected, he had already lifted the lid of the pot and started serving the meal. I'm hungry, please give me more milk. The person who serves food at home has always been Mrs. Su, because it is a rule to serve more to whom and less to whom. Thinking of the girl who died by the river and didn't speak for her earlier, Mrs. Su became angry. I'll give you a fart. She knows how to eat, why not hold her to death? I won't eat fart, let's leave it for you to eat on your own. Su Xiaoyun quickly threw the clothes in the corner of the ground, and only then did she realize that they were not one piece, but two pieces. In addition to the white shirt, there is also an apricot-colored pants. So the slut wearing light-colored pants is a ruthless person. Wait. Su Xiaoyun picked up two clothes with two fingers and confirmed that there were only two. Does Liu Dongsheng not wear underwear? It seems like an incredible secret has been discovered. The village bully doesn't wear underwear. In the other room, Li Wan was painfully applying safflower oil to the red buttocks of her two sons. Jinbao took off his pants and lay naked on the Kong side by side. One buttock egg is redder than the other, with blood streaks on it. Li Wan poured some safflower oil into her palm, rubbed her hands to warm them up, and pressed them against Jinbao's buttocks to start rubbing. Ah, mother, be gentle. What's the howl? Who asked you to provoke Liu Xiaoxi? Are you the ones you can provoke? Seeing her two sons come back like this, she, as a mother, also feels heartbroken. But what's the solution to heartbreak? That's Liu Xiaoxi. The Su family's ding dan is thin, even if they are not thin, the Liu family's men are 5 at a time. Standing in front of them, they are like that little chicken, and they are of no use at all. Looking at his brother's miserable situation, Yin Bao also trembled with pain. Mom, why don't I stop rubbing it? Rub and knead your pain for 2 days, but if you don't, wait for it to hurt for 10 or 8 days. Yin Bao is lying down again, so he should rub it. Li Wan rubbed and cursed, Liu Xiaoxi, why is he so ruthless? His two children are still arguing. He deserves to be so old and can't marry a wife. Su Xiaoyun put away his clothes and ran to the pot to guard. Mrs. Su always serves rice first to Su Wangzu, with less rice soup and more grains of rice, give more gold and silver treasures, just like Su Wangzu, with a slightly smaller amount. However, Su Wangzu is not at home today, just hold gold and silver treasures. Next is Mrs. Su's own, half a bowl of rice, and the rest is rice soup. The rice in Li Wan's bowl is even less. Then comes Su Xiaoyan, and finally her. Milk, why didn't I have a single grain of rice in my portion? Su Xiaoyan, who can't do much work, can have 3 or 4 mouthfuls of rice. Didn't you say you don't want to eat? If you don't want to eat, forget it. Who said I won't eat? Su Xiaoyun placed it on the table and exchanged Mrs. Su's bowl with her own bowl before everyone arrived. Su Xiaoyan immediately reported, Grandma, Su Xiaoyun stole food. First of all, Su Xiaoyun is indeed my name, but I am your sister. Secondly, I am openly taking my own rice. Isn't the rice inside that I planted or harvested? It's just tasting the fruits of my own labor, how can it be called stealing? But Mrs. Su has already rushed out with a big iron spoon in her hand. Su Xiaoyun, your father's sacrificial star. There was no sound behind it, just like a recording machine that had pressed the pause button. What's wrong with this? Su Xiaoyun scratched her face and saw Su Xiaoyan looking at the door with a frightened expression. She turned around and saw a man and a woman of all sizes standing there, blocking the entire door. Mrs. Su, are you the one who curses my mistress as a villain? Oh no. This is Liu Dongsheng's parents. They really came to settle the accounts, so fast. So the question is, how did Liu Dongsheng come home naked? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Couples show love. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Couples show love. Then, Su Xiaoyun remembered. Mrs. Su scolded him for being a bad person and then went home to complain. She caused him to come home naked. Are you also going to cause trouble for her? Su Xiaoyun held the bowl and shrank back. No, I just put a steamed bun on top of a plate of scrambled eggs and cucumbers. That poor scrambled egg is the only meat dish, so I brought it straight into the house. Su Laotai and Su Xiaoyan both saw her movements. I wanted to drink to stop her, but under the gaze of Lu Laogao's big eyes, my throat and eyes seemed to be blocked and I couldn't speak at all. Su Xiaoyan was also hungry and wanted to bring her food into the house to eat, but she only moved a little. I see who dares to move, Lu Laogao shouted in a rude voice. Su Xiaoyan was so scared that she shrank her shoulders and didn't dare to move. Her eyes were filled with resentment as she looked in the direction Su Xiaoyun was heading, biting her lips. How come there is still differential treatment? After finishing speaking, he looked at Mrs. Su and said, I'm asking you, you're talking. His voice sounded like thunder. Mrs. Su felt like her throat was like a thermos with a cork on it, holding hot air and unable to escape. After struggling for a while, I finally made a sound. I didn't say it, he heard it wrong. With a loud bang, everyone's bodies trembled in fear, and Lu Laogao patted the door. Miao Zuexiang rebuked, why are you shouting? You want to scare people to death. Can you still pay for smashing the door? Good guy, his voice is even higher than Lu Laogao's. Su Xiaoyun placed the food on the windowsill, crouched down to eat, and ate it outside in a TV drama-like manner. Watching the Su family behave obediently like quails, she wondered if she could learn from the Liu family. An old lady who dares to compare her voice to the old men, Miao Zuexiang will definitely be beaten. Lu Laogao's big palm, if you slap her, you won't even be able to knock her head off. The Su family is waiting for Miao Zuexiang to be beaten. Miao Zuexiang said again, it's not a big deal to compensate for the door. If you go to the mountain and dig a piece of wood, you'll have to take medicine and delay work if you hurt yourself. Show me your hand. The Su family's door is too rough. Last time you pricked your hand, you only noticed it when you had pus. Don't prick it again. There is a hint of disgust in the words. Lu Laogao obediently handed her his hand and said, my wife still hurts me. Nonsense, I don't hurt you. Who hurts you? It keeps banging, your hands are made of iron, you really can't feel the pain. The two of them stood there as if there was no one around, looking at their thick palms under the sun. Lu Laogao's face, full of flesh, is no longer so fierce. Although Su Xiaoyun couldn't see the scene at the gate, he could imagine it. She actually watched her husband and wife show off their love in the 1980s, bah, the sour smell of the 1980s is even stronger. After checking her palms, Miao Zuexiang realized that Mrs. Su and others were still watching them, and she threw the rough hand in disgust. I almost forgot what was going on. Grandma Su, what did you say just now? Did my little four hear me wrong? With my little four's ear, he can hear whose dog the village dog is barking at. Did you say he can still hear me wrong? Besides, my fourth child is not a bad child who wrongs others. Since childhood, he has been kind and righteous. Can you still wrongly accuse you old lady beat Xiaoyun? Miao Zuexiang is so eloquent. If Liu Dongsheng were benevolent and righteous, all the prisoners in the prison would be moral exemplars. The title of a village bully cannot be bought by him with money. Someone must also sell it. Seeing that she couldn't get over it, Mrs. Su slapped her thigh and cried, "Who asked him to hit my gold and silver treasures? My poor baby." He took off his pants and spanked his bottom, which swelled even bigger than Mantu. People as big as him bullied children. What's wrong with him? Since the arrival of the Liu family, Jin Bao, who had been rubbing and screaming, dared not speak, and there was no movement in that room. The Liu family came to find fault, and there were also many people in the village who came to watch the excitement. Jin Bao dared not speak up and his face turned red. Now the whole village knows that he and Yin Bao were spanked by Liu Dongsheng after taking off their pants. Su Xiaoyun took a bite of the scrambled egg. Even after 80 years of social death, its unique flavor still lingers. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Sorry and thank you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Sorry and thank you, but spanking is also your family's treasure. Why don't you tell me why my fourth child spanked them? It's not because they stole clothes left by the river by my fourth child. That's a newly bought and recently worn Dacron shirt, and the two children will quietly take it away. Mrs. Su, is your family so poor that they can't even afford to give their children a few cents for pocket money, and only steal someone else's clothes for their gold and silver treasures? Xiao Si is afraid that your family won't take care of the children and raise two thieves, so he's taking care of them for you. My little four hands are almost swollen. I don't want to say thank you for doing such a big good thing. I'm still kind-hearted and don't know how to criticize him as a villain. I think your family's treasures are the villains. What she means is that the Su family child was beaten up like that, not only cannot be scolded, but also needs to thank Liu Dongsheng, right? Miao Zuexiang is really good at speaking. Dad, Mom. Miao Zuexiang turned around and suddenly smiled happily. Xiaosi, why did you come over? It's so sunny, isn't it like telling you to wait for us at home and go home to eat after we've done justice for you? Liu Dongsheng was wearing a straw hat and had already changed into a white shirt. However, this one was a bit old, but underneath it was a pair of black pants. He only had that white one, which Su Xiaoyun had taken away. You've been out for so long and haven't come home yet, I'm a bit uneasy. I'm afraid the Su family will bully you, he said, stretching his neck to look into the yard. As a result, I only saw Mrs. Su and Su Xiaoyan, and didn't even see any trace of Su Xiaoyun, let alone his two precious clothes. Who is so bold as to bully them? Miao Zuexiang is still very happy. Look at how filial her youngest sister is. So filial children are already 21 years old and still can't find a daughter. In law, the girls in the village are really tasteless. Coincidentally, my fourth child has also arrived. Hurry up and shout out, Jin Bao Yin Bao, to apologize to him. Say thank you again, otherwise your family won't want to eat anymore. Yes, don't want to eat. Lu Laogao agreed and lightly patted the door panel, looking at the lunch table in the yard with a posture of lifting the table without apologizing or thanking. Mrs. Su couldn't do anything, there were only a few elderly, weak, women, and children at home. The only adult man, Su Wangzu, went to the neighboring village to build a house for people. They managed to have lunch and dinner there, and he wouldn't come back until it was almost dark. What else can we do if we can't fight or argue? Jin Bao, Yin Bao. Come out quickly. Inside, Li Wan put on pants for the two children and pushed them out. The two children walked with twists and turns, lowered their heads, and dared not look at the three ferocious people at the door. Yes, I'm sorry, they said in unison. They were the ones who were beaten, but those who were beaten had to apologize to the person who hit them. I'm sorry, their buttocks hurt his hand. What are these all truths? What else? Urged Miao Zuexiang. Thank you. Thank you for being willing to raise his hand and spank them. Woo-woo, Yinbao finished speaking with frustration and cried. Jinbao didn't cry, but his face turned even redder. I'm afraid he hasn't had the face to see the villagers in the meantime. After waiting for a while, Su Xiaoyun still didn't come out. Even if he did, Liu Dongsheng couldn't ask her for his clothes and pants in front of so many people. Mom and Dad, let's hurry back. Big Brother and his team are still waiting for us to eat. Lu Laogao, that rough guy, didn't notice his youngest son's abnormality and was still immersed in the matter of stabbing his wife's heart in his hand. Miao Zuixiang did see it. It's just that the Su family is so poor that there shouldn't be anything worth his family's fourth child's concern about. This kid has been at a disadvantage since childhood and loves to hold grudges. He must feel unsatisfied with apologizing and thanking, and the bad water in his stomach is counting on the Su family. Let's just calculate. The Su family deserves it. Who made them steal clothes and they all came to his house. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Lazy Show Them. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Lazy Show Them. As soon as Liu Dongsheng's voice came out, even though he knew he couldn't see this side, Su Xiaoyun quickly lay on the Kong. After a long silence, I woke up again. Be good, this is the village bully's family. They are really amazing. It was the first time she saw someone being beaten and apologized and thanked them. Fortunately, Liu Dongsheng didn't mention anything about the clothes and pants, otherwise someone who made a fool of themselves might have to add her. Su Xiaoyun decided to make sure to wash his clothes clean and send them back later, so as not to be remembered. In the yard, as soon as the Liu family left, Jinbao and Yinbao sat on the ground with weak legs, and then jumped up and down again, shouting loudly. But pain. Alright, why are you howling? Look at how long you guys will remember to provoke the Liu family in the future. Hurry up and wash your hands and eat. Mrs. Su also regained her voice. But looking at the table again, why is there only a bowl of clear rice soup in the bowl where she is sitting? Where did the cucumber and scrambled eggs go on the table? Su Xiaoyan quickly reported again, Grandma, I was eaten by Su Xiaoyun in the house just now. She might have finished eating it all. Su Xiaoyun happened to come out with an empty bowl and plate and put them on the table. I'm full, take your time eating. Hurry back to the house and push the bolt. You're a dead girl born in the year of the rat. You're so good at eating, you've made a plate of eggs, you eat too much and don't work. Pigs are even more diligent than you. So, Su Xiaoyun not only had a hard life to conquer his family, but also had an additional flaw, which was that he was lazy and could still eat. For a rural girl, it can be considered a devastating reputation. What a plate of eggs, even though they are all cucumbers, at most only one of those eggs has been stir-fried. Su Xiaoyun muttered in her heart. Originally, Milk fried a plate of eggs today. Why didn't I see it? Are you old and have bad eyes? It's okay. I'll show you what it means to eat a plate of scrambled eggs tonight. She eats and shows her. Mrs. Su, who was angry, covered her chest and gasped for breath. Actually, it was just an installation. The next moment, she quickly went to the kitchen to check if the cabinet door was locked properly. I breathed a sigh of relief when I saw that the big lock was securely fastened. After the chaos of war, the Su family finally had lunch, but they all ate tasteless and tasteless. Apart from stir-fried eggs with cucumbers, there are only some wild vegetables and pickled vegetable bumps left on the table, which are not as delicious as stir-fried eggs with cucumbers. Jinbao and Yinbao can't sit down or lie down, they can only stand and eat. After lunch, it used to be Su Xiaoyun who used to wash the pots and dishes. But Mrs. Su shouted a few times and she pretended not to hear her, and the bowl couldn't be left there all the time. The hot weather caught flies, so she asked Li Wan to wash it. I used to take a break after lunch before going to work in the field, but when the Liu family interrupted me, I couldn't rest anymore. I quickly prepared to go back to the field. After the household contract was implemented, their enthusiasm for farming increased significantly. After all, after paying the public grain, as long as the harvest was high, there was also a lot left. Who wouldn't want to have a full stomach? Su Xiaoyun, hurry out and farm. Su Xiaoyun shouted. Su Xiaoyun lay back on the kong. It was so hot outside that she didn't go, let alone plant for them. Grandma said I'm lazy and greedy. I'm so lazy, how could I go to farm? You. Xiaoyan, you will be going on a blind date with Chen Shuabin in a few days. You can work hard together for what I need to do, and then it will appear that you are so hardworking. Maybe Chen Shuabin and his parents will take a liking to you. Su Xiaoyan does plan to perform well recently, but that doesn't mean she's exhausted outside. Su Xiaoyun can just lie at home and have a good night's sleep. She's so beautiful. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Encountering Village Tyrants Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Encountering Village Tyrants Again. No matter how Su Xiaoyan shouts or how Mrs. Su scolds, she won't come out. They kicked the door twice but didn't open it. Instead, they were sweating all over as they tossed and turned. Watching the time getting late, Mrs. Su scolded, "She's so lazy. If she doesn't work, she won't be allowed to eat at night. There's no free lunch at home." This time she is guarding the dining table well, watching how the bereaved star still steals food. Jinbao and Yinbao naturally couldn't have followed down to the ground. They all lay obediently on the kong and soon fell asleep. Su Xiaoyun also slept for a while, and when she woke up, she stretched lazily and was full of energy. Alas, we need to quickly wash Liu Dongsheng's clothes and return them as soon as possible, otherwise she wouldn't dare to leave the gate. Can there be a good outcome if you get into trouble with a village bully? Pick up 2 pieces of clothes on the ground, open the door, put them in the large basin where clothes are usually washed, hold them and place them in the cool area of the yard, pour some water bubbles from the water tank. Sitting on the bench, rubbing clothes with smelly soap, rubbing on the washboard, and soon a basin of foam. After being fully washed, Su Xiaoyun hung the clothes on the clothesline in the yard. It shouldn't be until Mrs. Su and a few people come back to dry them in this weather. Su Xiaoyun wandered to the kitchen and found that all the cabinets were locked. Is there nothing she can do once she's locked? Just use an axe to smash it open. However, if Su Xiaoyun did that, the Su family would definitely have to collectively bombard her, and what she wants to do later may not go smoothly. The hen in the chicken coop started to coo. Su Xiaoyun quickly crawled into the chicken coop to see, and sure enough, the straw was sitting out of the coop with an egg inside, still warm. Hee, who said she's a bereaved star? Isn't this luck quite good? Put the eggs in the space. Su Xiaoyun went back to the house to tidy up the house, and at the same time, looked at what the original owner had. Finally, she rummaged through several old clothes and found $1, which was all she had. So poor. But it would be great if you could secretly save money under Mrs. Su's nose. Lying on the kong for a while, the fish was salted again. There was a clock on the wall of Su's house. At 5 o'clock, Su Xiaoyun went out to touch his clothes and found them completely dry. He put them away and hid them inside the house. If the Su family sees her washing men's clothes, she may say something unpleasant again. Lock the door, and Su Xiaoyun went up the mountain carrying a bamboo basket. Relying on the mountains to eat, the resources on the mountains behind Honghe village are quite abundant. However, people dare not go deep into the mountains and mostly pick wild vegetables and fruits. When there is no firewood to burn, they come and chop some firewood. Su Xiaoyun picked wild vegetables while walking. She was also a child who grew up in the countryside and knows several edible wild vegetables. I also found a cluster of bright red wild strawberries. Take off one and wipe it with cloves and put it directly in your mouth, it's sweet and sour. Su Xiaoyun picked all the red ones and the small bamboo basket was full. The sun was about to set, but she didn't plan to just go home like that. She found a relatively flat place to sit down, with a large ball of mud in her hand. This big mud is the authentic beggar chicken she bought during her trip, and when she put it in, the boss said it was freshly cooked. Su Xiaoyun found a stone and slammed open the mud outside, then stopped. He used his hand to scrape open the rest of the mud, revealing the discolored lotus leaves inside. Opening the lotus leaves, a tempting and steaming aroma fills the nose. Liu Dongsheng was sleeping on a tree. In his dream, he caught the thief who stole clothes and gave him a good beating. As he beat him up, he was awakened by the fragrance. Looking down, the clothes thief was eating chicken in big gulps under the tree. Who hit me? Su Xiaoyun was hit twice by a stone in a row, and the second hit her head. She stood up and searched for a while but couldn't find anyone, and laughter came from above her head. Looking up, I saw a few leaves on the dense banyan tree being pulled apart, revealing the face of the village bully. No wonder we couldn't find it just now. The leaves of the banyan tree were big and dense, and the trunk of the tree could only be reached by two people with open hands. Why are you here? Su Xiaoyun's expression seemed to be haunted. She just looked at the tree that was so big, with a large shade, and a smooth surface of bluestone slab under it. She sat on it and ended up being the rabbit waiting for it, bumping into someone's nose. I don't know if he saw it when he was holding the chicken. Is there anyone worse off than her? End of this chapter.